Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome back to Marvel Snap Zone for more daily YouTube content. It's time for another update of our guide to Infinity Splits, a full list of them and how they all work. So if you're not sure about how you get the variants that you want inside of Marvel Snap, here is a definitive guide breaking down exactly how you go about it. We update this video periodically as more information about the Infinity Split system becomes available, so if you've seen this before, don't panic, you haven't misremembered. We're just updating the video today to show you some new information and new statistics that we have about this entire procedure. So if you enjoy these type of videos, do me a favor, make sure you're subscribing to the channel for me and come back for more content every day in the future. It is much appreciated if you wouldn't mind leaving a like and a comment while you're down there. So, first of all, what on earth is an Infinity Split? Well, Infinity Splits are the most exciting part of Marvel Snap for collectors and some players, offering a unique way to get a very personal collection to you and bling out the decks you play with artistic styles, glitz and glam as other options, as you play. Sadly, they're also one of the more confusing aspects of the game for newer players, with it often being quite unclear how many different variants there are, how to acquire the ones you want, and what the limiting factors are into getting them. So today we're breaking down what they are, how they work, and clearing up some of that confusion to the best of our ability. So first of all, we're not talking about variants. No. Those are the different artworks you can buy, open in collector's caches, or otherwise acquire. And while those are very cool, today we're looking at card rarity in this case. Many people are aware that you have 7 base rarities in Marvel Snap, ranging from common up to infinity. Each rarity upgrade costs different amounts and rewards different aesthetical changes for collection level amounts. So for example, a grey card is just a common card, and the base rarity you will get a card at. At uncommon, you can upgrade it to have the art breaking out of the frame, rare moves it to a 3D effect, and so on and so forth as you continue up until you reach the final upgrade level of infinity. What this does will split the card into 2 copies and add a unique border and a unique visual effect for you. Well, a lot of people aren't familiar with exactly how that works when they first start. So you can see on screen now we're upgrading a copy of armor here up to the infinity level, and you'll notice the button we press normally to upgrade it to infinity now looks a little bit different after we've done so. If we press that button, we will now get our infinite copy that we've just upgraded and a brand new copy of armor as well, a basic level with a brand new aesthetic effect. This is what an Infinity Split is. It's important to remember your new copy will always be at the common rarity when you split it, meaning you'll have to upgrade it all over again if you want to collect even more diverse Infinity Splits, many versions of which are harder to get or only available after a card has been split several times. So what different types of versions of Infinity Splits are there? Well, thanks to several players who have data mined Marvel Snap, we understand the effects that are available currently for Infinity Splits, but are also aware that more and more different effects and styles will become available in the future, offering a very collector-driven experience to Marvel Snap for a long time to come. Several players are actively chasing some of the rarer versions of these to be able to show them off to their friends and their opponents. So based on what we currently understand, Infinity Splits are made up of 2 types of effects. They are particle effects and background effects. Background effects are kind of like your traditional foiling on cards in other card games. They are changing the actual background of the card, either by altering the art or removing it entirely for a clean foil finish. Currently, there are 4 different background effects available in Marvel Snap. They are the Prism finish, a foil finish, a gold finish, and the ink finish. These 4 versions don't currently have any variations between them, and they become available at certain split levels that we'll go into a little bit later. Then we have the particle effects. These are the effects that kind of operate in the 3D space of a digital card game that you can't really do in a paper one. Adds a layer on top of the card. It's possibly surrounding the card. There are currently 4 of these available as well, and they're called the Tone Flare, the Glimmer Flare, the Stardust Flare, and the Krackle Flare. We'll also be breaking these down for you in this video as well and showing you how to identify what you have. But most importantly, there is now several different versions and variations and colors of each of those 4 effects, all combined within the same drop rate. This makes a very particular particle plus background combination very, very rare indeed, and gives collectors a thing to chase. So which of these particle effects are the rarest? Well, first of all, we'll cover the colors of them to show you the rarest colors of each of these effects. So according to a Discord post from Stephen, I know it's a bit innocuous, but he does work on Marvel Snap, I promised, in order of most rare to least rare, black versions of the particle effects are the rarest version, rainbow and gold fall into the next tier, and then the bottom tier combines the rest of the colors available in red, purple, blue, white, and green. So we know which ones are going to be harder to get before we start looking at each variation of particle effect. So we'll start things off with the 2 more common particle effects that, hopefully, all being said, you should be able to see on screen for you now. Glimmer Flare is one that you find in your early split. It kind of gives your card this small little sparkle, flying away from the center of the card in various shades of colors, now available in very different shades of colors, and thankfully we have a better idea of just how many there are at this point. It's a great looking little effect. It adds a simple little pop to a card, and is definitely one of the ones you'll see earlier in your Marvel Snap journey. If we move on to take a look at the Tone Flare, this one is almost like comets floating around the card. You'll see them spiraling around, often at quite a high force. They're kind of hard to capture in a screenshot. This one also comes in all of the colors and offers this little comic stripe style background effect you'll see behind the number of cards. It's quite an interesting effect. I think it adds a bit to the card and giving it this comic book style feel, and it's definitely a favourite of certain players out there. If we take the time to look at the Stardust Flare, this one is a slightly rarer effect, which we'll cover in a table on screen in just a little bit. But this one is a much bigger effect than the previous Glimmer, even though it has a similar kind of look. You've got stars of various shades kind of bursting off of the card instead of being more around it. And it's pretty easy to identify this one thanks to the new artist credits as well. This one, usually a sign that you've split a card a few times, as it is slightly rarer and is one that is definitely in higher demand for the majority of players. Last but not least, we have the most coveted of the particle effects, this one called the Krackle Flare, named so after the Kirby Krackle, or kind of a known technique inside comic books used to create a crackle of energy in US superhero comics that was originally inspired by influential artist Jack Kirby back in the 1960s. We've got this kind of energy field escaping from the card, giving it a very battle-ready feel. This effect now available in a variety of colors too. This is by far the rarest particle effect and unlocks the latest into your Marvel Snap Infinite Split journey, so when you finally get your hands on one of these, it's going to be really quite coveted. In a similar vein, it's time for us to take a look at the 4 background effects. Important to know these don't really have variations in colours the same way particle effects do. First of all, we've got your foil finish, the very traditional and normal rainbow foiling you would expect on a card. It's exactly that, a nice clean background with a silvery rainbow colour to it. As kind of mentioned before, sometimes the artwork can be seen behind the character and sometimes it ends up being barely visible or not visible at all based on the card in question. If we move on, we have the Prism finish. This is the other more common of the background finishes and actually looks quite similar all in all to the previous one. This kind of Prism finish removes the card's background art entirely and replaces it with sharp-edged, reflective hexagons that kind of have this rainbow finish on top of them. In some recent updates, we've actually seen this finish be altered ever so slightly to give it more of a textured feel and less of a hexagonal feel, but there's still a pretty noticeable difference between the two. If you're ever unsure on which one you have, just click on the artist credit box at the top of each card and you'll be able to find out at the bottom thanks to the symbols that are now clearly detailed inside the client. The bigger fan favourites come next though. Inkify is my personal favourite, now known as the ink flare inside the game. This one is slightly more common than its rarer counterpart, but it is a rare background that has a lot of prestige in the eyes of many players. It only becomes available at Infinity Split 4 onwards and only has a 10% drop rate. Inkify, black and white ink flare, whatever you would like to call it, gives a very 70s movie vibe, retro comic book feel around it, makes it very monotoned as a result, and is a fan favourite of many players on many cards. Last but not least, our last background finish is the gold flare, or just the gold finish, depending on what you prefer to call it. It is the rarest background effect, only becomes available after Infinity Split number 5, and of course has that 10% drop rate just like the ink flare. A solid gold background on a card really makes the character in question stand out and pop, and is definitely a favourite among many players as well. So now you've seen a variety of each of the effects, and hopefully a variety of colours of them where possible as well. So what do we know about the rarities of these effects? How likely are you to get the version that you want to get? A ton of information regarding the exact rarities of each effect and what new effects are on the way, and so much more is still being kept very quiet by Second Dinner, understandably so. They don't want the players to know all of their surprises just yet. However, we have had some hints given to us in the past. Once again, Stephen in the Discord providing some information about how you cannot get duplicates of the same split. You will always have a change in some capacity, even if that is as small as the colour of the effect changing as you go. Your third split will be guaranteed to get both of a background and a particle effect, and will open up the new possibilities for new modifications overall. Most importantly for many folks, the split level is tracked by character and not by artwork. So if you switch to splitting a brand new variant of a card you have purchased, your split progression will remain when you start splitting the new art. More importantly, the bots of Marvel Snap right now can acquire cards and effects that we as players cannot. So if you're staring across from somebody and see a particle effect with no rainbow background, or a background that doesn't come without a particle effect, you'll know that you are playing against a bot. With all that said, let's take a look at the table that was provided to show us a little bit more about how rare each of these effects are. The first time you split a card, you will only have a chance at one of two background effects. They are exactly 50-50 as to whether your card has a foil finish or a prism finish. Moving on to split 2 and 3, you're still going to have a 50% chance at each of those backgrounds, but you're now guaranteed to pick up a particle effect. However, only the two more common effects are available for you at this point, with a 50-50 shot at Glimmer and the Tone Flare respectively. Moving on to split number 4, this one opens up the chance to have that ink background at just 10% of a drop rate in this case. The extra 10% does get taken away from foil and prism, which now have a 45% chance each. More importantly for a lot of folks, this is where the Stardust flare comes into play, and your chances of each individual effect on particle effects becomes 33% each. On split number 5, you gain access to the gold background of cards. This one also a 10% chance, with 5% being removed from each foil and prism respectively. Split 5, however, the reveal and or particle effects remain exactly the same, with a 33% chance of each. Last but not least, split 6 is where the Kirby flare comes in. The Kirby Krackle becomes available at a 10% drop rate chance, with 3% being taken away from each of the other reveal effects respectively. Well, that's quite a lot to take in. It turns out Marvel Snap has so many potential combinations of Infinity Splits that collectors will always have a rarer version of a card to chase down, depending on whether they care about that type of thing. So with a known 788, known 8 different particle effect colors alongside 4 different effects and 4 different backgrounds. The collectability of Marvel Snap has never been higher. If you find anything that we don't currently know about Infinity Splits and you'd like to submit it to us to add to the next update to this video, the best thing you can do, of course, is contact us on Twitter at Marvel Snap Zone, or come and join the community Discord server you find in the description box down below and tell us all about it. Until next time, I've been HowlingMines, you've been amazing, and this has been your definitive guide to Infinity Splits and how they work. Take care, and thank you for subscribing.